Because when you're out there, nature don't care. Nature doesn't care. The mountain doesn't care. The rock doesn't care. The river doesn't care who you are. You just gotta be out there, be yourself, be authentic, be prepared, have a great time, experience what you can, and I think that's one of the beautiful things about the outdoors is it really is this space to be free. You just get to show up authentically. For me, before I came out and now being out has always been the space where I felt the most like myself.
What do you do when you come out as LGBTQ and love the outdoors? What do you do when you see the outdoor space ruled by older white cis men and desire a diverse community of outdoor lovers? Accept it, change it, create it. I am Justin Yoder, and this is LGBT Outdoors. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the LGBT Outdoors podcast. I am one of your hosts for tonight, Justin Yoder, and my husband is on as well, Patrick.
Hey, everybody. I'm already stepping on top of you. We're off to a great start.
That's all right. I'm used to it. No. Yeah. Things are going well in the LGBT outdoors world.
Yes.
Things are busy as well. Probably. Nope, I'm not going to say that. I'll just say we're getting really close to announcing LGBT Outdoor Fest 2025.
I know.
Yeah.
I know.
That's all I want to
talk about it so bad.
So just a little teaser. Everybody be on the lookout for that because when registration opens, it's going to be a good time. I will say it will be in September and that of next year, like usual. But other than that, we're going to leave you hanging until our Outdoor Fest coordinator, Josh McNabb, is ready to announce that, and we'll let him do that.
But stay tuned because we do have early bird pricing, which is the cheapest it will ever be to go to LGBT Outdoor Fest 2025. I'm so excited.
Yeah. And registration will open early 2025. So,
yeah.
But yeah. Also, the Trailblazer Society has been growing. And
yes.
Super excited about that. Do you want to share about that?
Sure. So, Trailblazer Society are a collection of fantastic, amazing, kind, generous folk who partner with us and send off a small chunk of change each month to help support our mission. The reason that that's important and like a monthly thing is so that we can plan. We can know, okay, we can accomplish this much in 2025 versus like kind of in the past. And we're just sort of crossing our fingers and hoping that it all works out. But being able to plan makes a big difference. There's a ton of like really cool little perks that you get kind of depending on how much you want to pitch in. One of which is planting a tree in your name, which I thought was a super cool idea. There's a t-shirt involved, which is a custom design. So super cool, very, very important. And it really makes a humongous impact when everybody sort of comes together and pitches in because like your $5, $15, $25 a month partner with everybody else, like really, really puts a dent in our expenses. So check it out.
Yeah.
What's the link on the website?
It's just lgbtoutdoors.com/trailblazers.
And I'll put a link in the show notes as well.
Yeah. So check it out. You really want to make an impact in the outdoor community with providing safe places and inclusion. That's a great way to do it. Yeah. Let's move on to our guest and jump in because I'm excited. Tonight we have Bucky with us, she, her. And Bucky has spent her life in the outdoors and making cool spaces for people as well. She works with outdoor-minded individuals, partners, and families to become self-sustaining adventurers. through inclusive coaching classes and community. So I think plus she's traveled to like over 40 countries. So I can't imagine the amount of stories that she has.
Right.
But we're going to have a great conversation with her. So welcome to the podcast, Bucky.
Yeah, thank you guys for having me.
Thanks for joining us.
Absolutely. Like I everybody's just listening right now, so nobody can see, but like just looking behind you, I'm like, I want to hang out with you for a week.
So much gear.
Got all my gear behind me.
Yeah. So for all of you that can't see, there's just helmets and climbing boots and ropes and just all this gear that makes you just want to get out there. So I'm loving it. But I would love it if you would just kick this off and just share with us who you are, and as much or little as you want to dive into, maybe something about your childhood, where your love for the outdoors came from. Just let our listeners know, who is Bucky?
Yeah. Well, I'd love to share a little bit. So my love for the outdoors kind of came a little bit later. I consider myself a little bit of a late bloomer, but I've dove in head first and really embraced it. And it's made it my lifestyle. And now I hope, my career as well. But to kind of roll back the timeline a little bit, I am from California. So California girl, grew up in the wine country, the wine region of California, and I played competitive soccer. And took that all the way up through college, where I played at a school in the Midwest. Was really successful with my college soccer career, but the minute my last game ended, I decided I wanted to hang up my cleats and I needed to find a new sport. I'd done the same thing for 17 years of my life, most days of the week. It was like a career. It was like I was retiring, and I just needed to find something new. And it was in that in between space of not really knowing what was going to fill that void that I discovered rock climbing. And I bought a pair of shoes, I bought a harness, didn't know what I was doing, went out, climbed outside for the first time, and just started to get hooked. I started to learn how to backpack, started to learn how to climb, lead climb for myself, not just becoming a follower. And over the next many, many years, my climbing, my backpacking took me not just all over the US, but all over the world. And it became a reason why I traveled. I found ways to do it when I traveled, and became something that just I incorporated and integrated into who I am as a person. So I currently live in the Midwest in Minnesota with my partner, Jess, and our kids. And we have a really awesome life here. And there's some great wilderness spaces out here that we get to explore all the time. So that's kind of the 30,000 foot view of my life.
Nice. Well, and like rock climbing is obviously the next logical progression from college soccer, obviously, and it's worked out well for you.
Yeah. It's become a passion, but it's also become a place where I've found community. Just the outdoor space in general has become a bit of a family for me, and it's where some of my closest friends have been made. Some of my best experiences have been made, and just something that I've gained so much from, and I want to give back to as well.
That's awesome. That's one thing that I think a lot of our members recognize with LGBT outdoors as well is the community aspect, the family aspect of it. There's just something amazing that can happen in the outdoors in general, but especially like when you find your people and you get out there and you're doing things that you love in the outdoors. Like it's just an incredible therapeutic even way of connecting with nature and those around you. So I love that you found that community. What's the rock climbing community like overall, as far as being an inclusive group? Do you feel like, and I know you traveled all around a lot, but a lot of times when we're talking with people, especially on the podcast, like it kind of depends on not just what activity they're doing, but where they're at in the country as well. But for you, what's your experience been like?
Well, so my experience is a little unique. I am someone who came out later in life. And so for a portion of my young adult life, when I was in the outdoor space, I was straight passing, and didn't have to really think about inclusivity a whole lot.
Hmm.
And it wasn't until my own coming out journey really started to unfold, that became something that I became more aware of for myself personally, but for my siblings as well in the queer community. And so, in terms of the rock climbing community, I would say overall, it's an incredibly inclusive space. I've never met anyone who wasn't, very welcoming. I haven't heard stories of people, being disrespected or not being welcomed. So I'm really proud of that for that community. And you can, it's almost like this little safe haven. No matter where you are in the country, if you find rock climbing, you're going to find people that are going to welcome you in, and it's going to be a safe space for you. Now, I can't say that a blanket statement, because there's people everywhere in all spaces that aren't welcoming. But in general, I would say it's a incredibly welcoming community, and I've been blessed to experience that both as someone who wasn't out and who is out.
Nice.
That's great. And I tend to, I don't have a lot of rock climbing experience, but I tend to agree with you from what I have seen in the rock climbing community. And even we're here in Dallas, Texas, and one of the, it's the largest climbing gym I've ever been in. It is just massive movement gym in the medical district in Dallas. Has invited us numerous of times to come out and set up booths and have pride events with them and stuff like that. And we always have a great time, and the climbers have just been fantastic to connect with. And so I love hearing that. That's amazing.
I will say that representation is still really important, and it's still something that needs to grow, even in an inclusive space like the rock climbing community. So that's something that I think there's definitely room to grow for it to continue to be a safe space, so more and more people can come out and can be in that space. So still room to grow. But yeah, I'm glad you guys have had a similar experience.
Absolutely. Hopefully, we can keep breaking down those stereotypes too. We'd love to be able to see that with all outdoor activities in all states. Obviously, we've got a lot of work to do, but yeah. And you hit the nail on the head too with talking about representation. Like, that is so, so critical. And as a 501c3, we can't get into politics, so not going to go down that road at all. But we live in a time where a lot of people feel nervous to be seen, and heart absolutely breaks for that. And I can't tell anybody what to feel, because so many people are feeling different things. But I will say, like, I hope that our community can stay strong and let that representation shine, to try to be a light for those that need to see representation out there.
Yeah.
So was it the rock climbing that you were saying that took you to all these different countries?
Yeah. So it wasn't rock climbing in general. It was different jobs that I had. So after I graduated from college, my career kind of took me in a space of international development. And through international development, I got to travel and live in different countries like Peru and Nepal, places that have big mountains, big outdoor spaces. And I got to know the climbing community in those spaces. And they became such close friends, such family for me. And when I was living there, so it was something that I pursued no matter where I was in the world. And it was easy to do in places like Peru and Nepal, where, the mountains are calling everywhere you look.
Yeah.
Yeah. Were you out at this time, or was this before you came out?
This was before I came out, but I can absolutely say that if I had been out, my experience wouldn't have been any different with those communities. And I know that for a fact. They were, like I said, kind of these pockets, these safe havens, in countries that, can have more conservative spaces, just by nature of their traditions and their cultures and
Sure.
whatnot. So yeah, my experience, I know for a fact wouldn't have been any different.
But I like that point though, that even in kind of a traditionally more conservative area, that there are, safe havens, like pockets, you said, and big time hate that we have to find those pockets, but it's still good to know that they exist. And I think that's a really good reminder.
Mm-hmm. And I think it kind of harkens back to what you said at the beginning of like when you find your tribe, when you find your people, when you find your community, it really makes a huge difference in your overall experience. Like whether you're out, whether you're not, whether you're straight, whether you're gay, like finding your community is so important and can really
Yeah.
just make your experience in life just enhanced by so much.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Like I'm thinking of even this past LGBT Outdoor Fest that we had. So if anybody listening doesn't know what it is, each year we do this big annual event called LGBT Outdoor Fest. It's 4 days long. We have all these workshops and activities and things to do. And we had somebody come. I won't even say what state they're from, but came from a state that is not welcoming, in a community that's not welcoming, and a family that's not welcoming, and he's not out, but he came to LGBT Outdoor Fest to be able to have that sense of community, and it was incredible to get to hang out with him and spend time with him. But my heart breaks at the same time because then he leaves and goes back to being in the closet again. So I hope that anybody that is LGBTQI plus could have the experience of living their free and authentic self at some point in their life. Because I know for me, like I grew up in a very conservative family. And so like I never thought that I would come out, and kind of got kicked out of the closet in a sense. And thought that my world was ending at that moment. And now I can say I've never been happier in my life. And all that junk and stuff that I had to go through in coming out was incredibly worth it, and could not be happier than what I am now. So I hope that we can provide more experiences like that for people.
And it's cool that there are people like LGBT Outdoors does not have a monopoly on trying to create like safe outdoor queer spaces. Like I want to make that absolutely clear. Like we're not gatekeeping. Like there, we've come across like several other like people sort of in this space. Usually kind of focus more on like fishing or climbing. I know of a couple actually like queer climbing groups, and I love seeing everybody working toward the same goal. And it all comes down to building community, but it's wrapped in like an outdoor space or an outdoor activity. But at the core, it's all about connection. And I think that's freaking beautiful. And we have a lot of work in front of us, but I think it's important that we keep it up.
Because when you're out there, nature don't care.
Right?
Nature doesn't care. The mountain doesn't care. The rock doesn't care. The river doesn't care who you are. You just got to be out there, be yourself, be authentic, be prepared, have a great time, experience what you can, and I think that's one of the beautiful things about the outdoors is it really, it kind of just is this space to be free. You just get to show up authentically and get tested as who you are as a person out there, whatever limits you're trying to push or not push. Just being outdoors really, I feel like for me, before I came out and now being out has always been the space where I felt the most like myself.
Yeah.
Love it.
I can relate to that. Yeah, absolutely. You mentioned, I want to jump back to the traveling a little bit because I know that a lot of our community loves to travel. You mentioned Peru and Nepal out of all the places you've been. So I would maybe assume that those might be two of your favorite countries that you've traveled to.
Yes, definitely. And I've also lived in Fiji. And so that was a very cool experience for different reasons. There's not a whole lot of rock climbing there, but I got to learn how to scuba dive and surf. So that was pretty rad, and just
Nice.
got me out of my comfort zone, got me doing some completely new sports, new activities. I also really love New Zealand. That's an amazing country. I
Ooh,
didn't
yeah.
live there, but I would live there if I got the chance.
New Zealand's high on my list. I would love to go there. Yeah. So out of all these experiences, I'm sure you got some amazing stories. Do you have any stories that just really pop out, whether that has to do anything with the queer community or just an outdoor adventure or experience? You know, just one of those mountain high experiences that you're like, I'm taking this with me forever. Like,
Yeah, there's so many of them. Let's see. I think when I think back to my time in Peru, that was, I think, really where I came into myself as someone who loves the outdoors, experiences the outdoors. And it was where I started to plan my first backpacking trips where I was the leader, and so
cool.
I was doing the logistics, I was getting the gear together, I was getting the route together, and I was in a foreign country, and I was doing all of this, and I really got to come into myself. So I look back on some of these treks that I did. Like, there's a trek called the Salcantay trek, which everyone should look up, and if they go to Peru, they should do it, which just takes you through these amazing biomes where you start kind of in the valley, you work your way up the mountains, and you're just surrounded by these like 20,000 foot peaks. You work your way up to this pass at like 14,000 feet, come down the other side. And then as you come down, you're suddenly in like a jungle, and there's like jungle animals. So you were like at the snow, you were in a valley, and now you're in the jungle, and you kind of work your way through the jungle. And eventually the whole trek leads you to Machu Picchu, which most people have heard of. And that to me was like really seminal, because it was one of the first trips I planned on my own. So that was just really empowering, but also just the number of biomes that one single backpacking trip took me through was just incredible. Because usually, if I'm backpacking in like the Sierra Nevada mountains, it's all quite similar, which I don't mind. I love the Sierras.
Right.
But this was just really unique, in my opinion, getting to go through so many biomes in one single trip.
That I actually had a recent experience, not on that level, and it's going to sound so bizarre unless you've actually been there, but it was right here in Texas, at Big Bend National Park. So we did an adventure trip there. What was that? Maybe not even about a month ago, I guess now.
Yeah, give or take.
And if we drove like 30 miles across this national park, and it's just flat and deserty. And I'm like, this is one of those parks where it's a one and done, but I'm glad that I'm seeing it type of a thing. And we get camp set up and everything. And then the next morning we go drive to our first hike area. And it's about a 30-mile drive as well. And all of a sudden it's just like, we left this desert in Texas and started driving through like Costa Rica or something. Not that it was tropical, but like the scenes, the views looked very much like from Jurassic Park, like all these jagged mountains sticking up and the forest and everything. And it was just wild to think of how fast the environment changed like that. And really funny and not funny at the same time. Out of all the places I've traveled to, here in the States and around the world, and hiking and everything, leave it to me to get altitude sickness in Texas.
No way.
I would have never, if somebody would have told me that, I was like, you're out of your mind. That is not going to happen. But what ended up happening was we camped at 2,200 feet, but in less than, it was maybe about, I don't know, it was less than 24 hours later for sure, when we got toward the hiking trail, that was then at, I believe, 6,500 feet. And then we hiked to 7,500 feet. And I guess the combination of doing that in such a fast period of time did it to me. And oh man, it hit hard. And I was like, all right, here we go.
That's wild. Yeah, altitude is a tricky thing, and the thing about altitude is it doesn't matter how fit you are; it doesn't care. It can hit anyone at any time, so you shouldn't take it too personally. One of my most impactful experiences at altitude was in Bolivia. Actually, there's a mountain there called Huayna Potosi, and it's just shy of 20,000 feet. It's like feet shy, and you're just like, oh man, I wish it hit that 20. But I remember I was very new to mountaineering, so I was so scared about what I was getting into. I'd never done anything at really any scale like of this magnitude or lesser, and sleeping in the hut the night before, the wind was just pounding the building, and it's just this little like wooden shack, and I seriously didn't sleep a wink because I just thought I'm gonna die. Like I'm gonna die. I'm not even gonna make it out of this hut. Like the wind was so fierce, it sounded so violent. Got up the next day. My guide seemed okay, so I like go off of his energy, and we're gonna be fine. And we do this hike. It takes a super long time, really slow, but we make it up just at sunrise. And to be on top of this almost 20,000 foot mountain as the sun is like coming over the earth, and you can really see like the shape of the earth at that altitude, was just like, okay, I maybe I died in a different way and went to heaven. Like, that was pretty amazing.
That sounds incredible.
It's funny that you mentioned kind of like checking out the guide and like, is the guide panicking? Because like I do that on airplanes.
Yes.
I travel a lot for work, and we're hitting some bumpy air, and as long as the flight attendants are chit chatting and checking their nails, like I'm like, okay, we're okay. They're not panicked. I'm not panicked.
100%. I got two other smaller stories if you have time for that.
Absolutely.
Love it. Yeah.
That came to my mind. So one of them, I was in Iceland, and I was in my car. So it's not quite as an epic, big mountain or big backpacking trip, but was trying to be cheap because Iceland is very, very expensive. And so was sleeping in my super tiny rental car. It was like not much bigger than a smart car. And I don't know, just parked somewhere random, but woke up in the middle of the night to the car shaking back and forth, like, what the heck is going on? And look out the window, and there are wild horses rubbing themselves against the car. Wow. Yeah. Just scratching themselves. Like, I don't know how they didn't break the windows off or the mirrors off the side. But that was really special, like waking up, like first panicking and then realizing, oh my gosh, there's like these wild horses that are using it as a back scratcher.
It's like you have been chosen.
Wow.
Yes, you've been chosen for this experience.
And they have those solid white ones up there, right? In Iceland, was that what?
I don't remember. I don't remember if they do or not. That seems like they should, though.
Yeah, like there's a photographer I know that goes up there and does photography of them. And maybe there's other ones as well, but the ones he specifically photographs are oftentimes on the beach, and just the contrast between the white and the black sand is just stunning.
Yeah, and I was parked like right by a beach, so that makes sense that it was.
Well, better than that. I was afraid you were going to like say that it was a bear or something crawling on the car, which would have been as well. I had we experienced wild horses in Big Bend too, which I didn't realize that there were any till we got there. But they came right into the campground, hung out and whatnot. And then one night, it was like at 2 a.m. I got up to use the restroom, and full moon. The moon was so bright down there. It was incredible. But got up and got out of my tent and just realized that the horses were just sleeping all around our tents. And it was just incredible.
Oh my
gosh. I walk like just feet from them, because I had to, the direction I was going. And And they didn't even lift their head or anything. They would just like pass out sleeping, and like they chose
That's
our
so
tents to hang out
majestic.
around. It was so cool. It was so cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
What's your other one? I'd love to hear
The
it.
other one, so on my bucket list, I call it my Buck Do It list because,
Nice.
Bucky, and then it's like got to
Yep.
be action oriented.
Yeah.
So on my Buck Do It list was always to see the Aurora Borealis.
That's on my
and
list.
Yes. And so when I moved up here to Minnesota to be with Jess, that was something I'd heard. Like you can kind of see them from Minnesota sometimes. And this year, as you've probably heard, there were a lot of solar flares, and you could see them pretty far south. I don't know if you saw them in Texas, but
People did see them in Texas,
yeah.
not here in the big city, but yeah, there was places people saw them. Yeah.
So whatever night that was, she was like, "Get in the car. We're going aurora chasing." And we just drove out maybe an hour outside of the Twin Cities, found a really dark spot, and just like laid under the stars and watched the northern lights. And I just think it's really important to highlight like these big adventures, but also these micro adventures that we can do like just right in our communities.
Yeah.
And that one hit like a bucket list item for me, and I will never forget getting to experience that with her, and just getting to see those northern lights for the first time. So that's the other story that came to mind.
Nice. And your partner's name is Jess?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Jess, good job. That is like, I think, the ultimate date night, I think, in my mind.
Yeah.
It
was.
For me, anyway. Like, holy cow.
Yeah,
Well
it was
done,
pretty
Jess.
epic.
There was a night, I think it was about 2 weeks ago or so, when it was coming way down south, and I was seeing people. I was up late for some reason working, and looked on my phone, and people were posting on Facebook way further south in Texas than we are, that they were seeing it. So I went out to try to look, and of course it's just so bright here, and thought about getting Patrick up and going and seeing, but we would have to drive so far to get away from the lights in Dallas Fort Worth to be able to do it. And then I'm like, if it doesn't work out, then I just woke him up late at night for a failed attempt. But no, that would be so amazing to see. I could only imagine. And hopefully one day we'll get the opportunity. And
hopefully you guys get it sometime.
Yeah. So one of your other big loves and passions is backpacking as well.
Mm-hmm.
How did you get into the backpacking? And yeah, let's start there. Let's unpack that. Where did you get into backpacking?
Let's unpack that pack. So this is kind of an interesting story. So when I was in high school, we watched the movie Last of the Mohicans.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
It was really impactful for me. And there's like a scene, I can't remember if it's the very beginning or the very end or both, but it's just this kind of panoramic view of the Blue Ridge Mountains. And I got it in my head way back then, like, I'm going to go there. I'm going to go there and I'm going to backpack. And I had no idea what backpacking was, but I just like, that's what I decided in that moment. And so when I was in college, for one of my spring break trips, I was like, we're going to go to the Blue Ridge Mountains. I'm going to get a group of friends together, and we're going to figure this out. We're going to find someone who has more experience than us, and we're going to find someone with a car, and we're going to find all the gear we need. We're going to do this. So we kind of ramshackled it all together. I was wearing I had been in ROTC for a semester, so I was wearing like army boots, and one other guy had like a rucksack, and I didn't bring a sleeping pad. We didn't have like any of the right gear, but we had just enough to get by. And we drove down there, and lo and behold, it had been the year of snowpocalypse. So it had snowed just buckets and buckets and buckets. And we're just like naive. Like, I don't even know if we checked the weather. So we just gonna
do it.
We just start hiking up there, and all of a sudden we encounter snow. And all of a sudden that snow turns into knee-height snow, and then it turns into waist-height snow. And we're just post-holing through but we're having a grand old time because, I mean, we're naive enough to just, it's a good experience. And so that was my introduction to backpacking. And as miserable as some of the moments were, it was also just really empowering to be in nature, relying on your own skills and the skills of your friends. I learned a lot about what I shouldn't do on that trip. And my next trip was a lot more successful, like bring a sleeping pad. Definitely recommend that. That's not just for comfort, it's for warmth. I learned that lesson the hard way. And so that was sort of my introduction, was just this spring break random trip, and got to go on another kind of couple smaller trips. But then it was in Peru where that really started to take off much further, and then just kind of expanded from there.
Well, when you were talking about Last of the Mohicans, I was like, I don't remember too many backpackers in Last of the Mohicans.
No, it had nothing to do with
But
like
that
the main point of
had
the story.
What's cool though is that like you had a really, really challenging experience, and you decided to give it another shot. I think a lot of people, okay, like about my first time river rafting, went with my dad and brother. Something happened to one of the rafts as we were like getting off the river, slammed into a bridge. Everybody was fine, but it was still like pretty scary for me. And I was like maybe 10. And we went back again the next summer, and like I was freaking out just because of that that one experience. And my dad lovingly kind of forced me to participate, and I'm glad that he did, because like we continued rafting growing up. Like we have kayaks. I just picked up paddleboarding, or tried it. I guess I want to pick it up. And I would have missed out on all of that stuff had I just like thrown in the towel. And so I'm glad that you were able to soldier through and give it another shot with your new education. You know, like when things go wrong, as long as we
Yes.
Escape with our lives, there's some lessons in there that we can hopefully use on our next adventure.
Yeah.
Well, I was going to say I was a bit of a masochist back in those days. And so, you know, suffering was like, I was fine with it. What ended up being kind of funny, or not so funny for those that went with me later on trips, was I took that same mentality and made others suffer with me. So I like we're going to live off dry quinoa and, you know, like just ridiculous stuff. I don't do that anymore.
I'm okay with suffering. I'm just not going to suffer alone.
Yeah, I'm not going to suffer alone. And so like I took my brother out on a trip, and he had a horrible time, and he's never gone back. I blame myself for that. Yeah, I no longer am quite that masochistic, and I try to enjoy myself completely when I'm in the outdoors.
I would just imagine like on that, you know, like you're saying that you were like getting into like waist deep snow, like, you know, I couldn't help but think like you must have been wet and cold, and then trying to dry off camping out there, like, and no pad to sleep on to help with warmth. Like
it was very cold. Thankfully we had one, you know, I don't know if he was an Eagle Scout, but he was pretty talented. He knew how to start really good fires really fast. So if we didn't have him, that would have made that trip a lot more miserable, because those fires really were a godsend.
Wow. Yeah. Well, I'm glad it all worked out, and you survived, and you're here and still active in the outdoors. So that's amazing. Perfect. Thinking about our audience, we have a wide variety of people that listen, you know, and so thinking all about the rock climbing and the backpacking, those two things. What are some things that you could tell somebody that has never done those, but they're interested in getting involved? You know, tips, tricks, suggestions, training, anything like that.
I think that's a really great question. And something like one of the things that I was told when I first started backpacking was you have to go with a guy. If you don't go with a guy, it's not safe. And that held me back from experiences in the beginning because I couldn't always find a guy to go with. And then it actually put
Yeah.
fear in me that made me afraid to go on my own because it sort of told me I couldn't trust myself.
Yeah.
And then once I kind of got over that a little bit, it was like, don't go alone. You can't go alone. It's not safe to go alone. And my advice is to people is like, go with people if you want to go with them. The experience with others makes just the experience more enriching in many regards, but you don't need to rely on other people to make your adventure streams happen. Like you can empower
Yeah.
yourself with the skills you need to adventure with confidence out there. And it takes a little bit more work because you have to be your own leader, but you can absolutely do it. And I would just say, don't be held back by feeling like you don't have a partner or you can't find a partner. I've had several solo adventures, 1 day, 2 day trips that were just incredible to just get to spend that time with myself. And I didn't feel unsafe at any point. But that took some time because I had to kind of unravel the fears that I had developed. So that's kind of one thing I would say. Another one I would say is eat well while you're out there. As I was kind of referring to, I in the beginning was a little bit of a masochist. I was trying to pinch pennies, and I was just making really bland food. It was and often packing like just the right amount. Never coming back with an ounce of food more. And I've transitioned over time to either making my own or buying dehydrated meals. And overall, like I'm much happier when I'm out there because I'm well fed and my food tastes better. Invest in the food that you're going to eat, whether you're making it yourself, whether it's like a box of mac and cheese or it's a dehydrated meal. I think that it's worth it to invest in that food and not feel like you have to buy the 99-cent rice pack, instant rice packet at the grocery store and make that do. I was definitely that person for a long time, but that's kind of another thing. So like kind of two completely different pieces of advice, but two that I think are things I've learned over the years.
Well, and what's funny is like I kind of stalked your Instagram this afternoon, and those exact same two topics, like I was going to ask you about, because it does kind of like buck the convention about traveling and your food selection, especially when it comes to weight. But the way you explained it, like, makes perfect sense. Those are things that you're capable of, and you feel confident. I mean, have at it and enjoy it and taste good.
Yeah. And enjoy it, have a good experience, enjoy the food you're eating and empower yourself. Like, I'm not saying don't go with people and that, you won't have fears as you grow as an outdoors person. You will, but don't let that hold you back from empowering yourself with the skills you need because they're out there. You can gain those skills and you don't have to be held back from the adventures you want if you don't have a partner, if you're willing to put in a little bit of work to gain the skills you need.
Nice. I love so much that you brought that up because like I do think that that's a huge thing, especially in the queer community, that I don't want to go out there by myself. Like it can be scary, I might not know exactly what I'm doing, all of these ideas, but I think that there could be a lot of healing too that can come when you're out there by yourself too, like a lot of real soul searching, a lot of really connecting one-on-one between you and nature. And
well, because all of your crutches are gone. Like you're probably not going to have cell service, so you can't like doom scroll Instagram, and literally nobody else to talk to, or no other humans. I mean, like I would probably talk to the coyotes as they walk by.
Yeah,
just because I do that.
There's puppies.
It's a puppy. So like it does kind of like force you to like commune with yourself, and that's like healing and powerful, but also super scary to a lot of people. And I don't know, I guess it's just a whole act of bravery. but worth it.
Yeah, worth it. And I mean, go with people. I do most of my adventures with others, and it's so enriching to have friends along the way. But I do feel incredibly empowered to be able to go on solo adventures when I need to and when I can't find a partner.
Sure.
And I just think that's something that's really cool. I remember when I first started backpacking, and I was nighttime was the scariest because you just can't see what's out there, and I wasn't familiar with nature. I hadn't befriended it the way I have now. Um, and yeah, every little sound I was like, that's definitely a bear. Like that's a bear. Every little sound was a bear.
Right.
And it's like the biggest,
It could
baddest,
be a chipmunk,
scariest
but
thing.
it's a bear.
Every little, it's a bear, yeah. And over time, I have grown to become accustomed to the sounds of nature that, I can fall asleep with those same sounds now that I thought were bears, knowing it's just a bird in the bushes, or it's just a chipmunk, or it's just the leaves rustling. That takes some experience and time and comfort out there. But yeah, I definitely, those fears are legitimate, I should say. I don't want to, say they're not legitimate for people to have them.
Yeah. Yep, absolutely. Talking about fears and training and learning and everything, you also have your company, Outdoor Adventures Coaching. I'd love for you to share about that, because I know that people can get more experience, especially with backpacking and wilderness first aid, which I know a lot of our members love and would love to learn more about. So tell us more about your business.
Yeah, so my business kind of came about when I was doing some soul searching. I was down in Patagonia on a solo trip, actually, where I took a couple weeks to just hike and reflect on life and what is it that I wanted out of life? What is it that I was good at? What were my passions? What did I want my life to align with? And it all kind of centered around the outdoors and really working with one-on-one with people and empowering people. And so I decided to start a company, Outdoor Adventures Coaching, where I could work with folks of all skill levels to empower them to adventure with confidence. And one of the pillars of the company is wilderness first aid, because that's such an important skill to have, especially if you are a solo traveler out there. So we do wilderness first aid classes for groups, for families, for individuals, and that's something that I'm really passionate about. I'm a wilderness EMT, and I've been in wilderness EMT for 10 years, just for my own personal passion, just because I want to have those skills, and I've had to use them in the outdoors. Never for myself, always for someone else, thankfully at this point, and everyone's been okay in the end. But that's something I'm passionate about, and we offer those classes. And then we'll do sort of like a one-on-one adventure planning classes, and we do a lot of backpacking workshops. So people who are interested in getting started backpacking, like, just how do I get started? What's the gear that I need? Do I have to go and invest $1,000, or can I just use these shoes and borrow a backpack? And we go through those kind of questions that a lot of people have at the beginning, and really help build the confidence to be able to get out there and have an adventure. And so it's sort of those two pillars, is kind of adventure planning for beginners and kind of intermediates, or people who are looking to go out solo for the first time, and then the wilderness first aid classes. And yeah, it's rewarding, it's exciting, and I love what I do.
Yeah, I was going to say it must be very rewarding, and to be able to combine something with your passion that gives you that sense of reward afterwards, and watching people go out there and create their own adventures, feeling empowered and ready to take on the outdoors. Like, that's amazing. So I'm thrilled and glad that you are doing this.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's important too to me. Like, part of our mission is really to do that in a very inclusive way. Like, myself being a queer woman, like, I want to be someone who's in this, like, doing the same good work that you guys are doing, and creating spaces that are kind of in the outdoors community for LGBTQ plus to feel welcome, empowered, to build friendships, to build skills. And, I'm kind of doing it in my own way, just like you guys are in yours. And that's a huge piece of what we do is, like, it's about inclusive classes. It's about inclusive community. It's for everyone.
Nice.
That's amazing. Where do your classes usually take place whenever you do them?
So for the wilderness first aid classes, I do most of those in Minnesota right now, but they can happen anywhere in the country. And, would love to get opportunities to go work with folks really all over the country if I could. And then for the adventure planning, backpacking type classes, those are usually done virtually. And that's kind of one of the powerful tools of the internet, is being able to connect with folks really all over and walk them through the different beginner steps of becoming an outdoor adventurer and getting to do that kind of one-on-one in a virtual setting. I am hoping to launch an in-person adventure next year. And so that would be pretty exciting. So we'd get a group of people to come out and do a canoe trip in the Boundary Waters up here in northern Minnesota, which is a really unique wilderness area, unlike anything else in the rest of the country, and get to have sort of an in-person, put all the skills you learn to the test out in the wilderness type of experience.
Nice.
Sign me up for that.
Yeah.
That sounds amazing.
Rad.
Where can people learn more about you and your business and get connected?
Yeah, so we're on all the social platforms, LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, as Outdoor Adventures Coaching. And then our website is outdooradventurescoaching.com. So it's all pretty easy to remember. And you can DM me, you can message me. I love to chat with folks and just hear what adventures they're wanting to dream up. But yeah, those are the places you can find me. And yeah, I'm always down to connect with people.
Awesome.
Amazing. Love that so much. Patrick, do you have any other final thoughts, or Buckley, any final thoughts you have as we wrap up that you want to share?
I don't. I had a couple that were swirling around in my head, and Bucky's all like just plucking them like right out of my mind and answering them. Yeah, but thank you so much for hanging out with us. It was awesome to talk with you, and I love hearing about what you're doing, and definitely keep it up.
Yeah, I feel super honored to be here with you guys. So thank you for the invite, and I look forward to kind of seeing what's coming up in 2025. Keeping it on the down low for now, but I'm excited to hear about it.
Yeah. And you and I have emailed a little bit too, that I'm going to keep on the DL for right now as well too, but I have some ideas swirling in my head with a couple of the emails that we sent. So
cool.
We will be we'll be chatting.
I don't even know
more.
what y'all are talking about.
Nope, it's just between me and Bucky. It's on the DL. It's on the DL.
I feel so special.
But thank you though so much again for sharing your knowledge with our audience and everybody that's listening. Thank you for those of you that are listening. And please remember to check out our website at LGBT Outdoors. Check out the Trailblazer Society. We would love to have you a part of that as a member and making a true difference in the outdoor spaces. So until next time, get out there. Thank you again for joining us this week. If you have a campfire conversation story you would like to share, please email it to us at info@lgbtoutdoors.com. Follow us on Instagram at lgbtoutdoors and join the community at facebook.com/groups/lgbtoutdoors. For more information on today's episode, check out the show notes. For information about LGBT Outdoors, LGBT Outdoor Fest, local chapters, or to sign up for our newsletter, visit lgbtoutdoors.com. And if you're enjoying the show, please rate, review, and follow wherever you listen to podcasts.